Are you concerned about a market crash in 2014? Well, so am I. So join us with Alessio Rastani, the Robin Hood of Wall Street, for a free trading webinar. Learn how to protect yourself and possibly profit. It's on December 5th, 8 o'clock British Standard Time. You can click on the link below or go to leadingtrader.com/2014. I'll be there. Educate yourself and get the edge.
Use analogies to describe what's going on, and they're generally funny. And the humor has to do with the stupidity of the programs. And once you find the proper analogy to describe a government program or what the Federal Reserve is doing, it's actually funny. You know, the truth is funny, yeah, because when you really understand it, it's laughable how ridiculous what they're doing is.
Okay, understood. I want to finish up here with a question we always ask all of our guests, and here it goes, Peter. If you could make a phone call to the 20-year-old Peter Schiff and give that young man a bit of advice, what would you tell him?
Oh, I don't know. I have a lot to tell him because I've made so many mistakes in my life since I was 20. In fact, if I could make that phone call, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I would be on top of the world.
What's the biggest mistake you think?
Oh, I don't know. In my personal life, in my business life. I mean, I don't know. I made a lot of mistakes. I've done more things wrong than I've done right.
And but just advice you would give to that kid. You know, it doesn't have to be specific, but where were you at the time?
20? I just dropped out of college after 2 years. Maybe my advice would have been not to drop back in because I went back and I graduated from Berkeley in '87, but I took a couple of years off, which was a dumb move anyway. I shouldn't have done that. But
why do you say that? Why?
Because I really didn't accomplish that much during those 2 years that I was off. I should have just gone through college. I mean, if I wasn't going to go back, I didn't need my degree. My degree didn't do anything for me job-wise. But it just seemed like I shouldn't have just stayed off those 2 years. I should have just gone through and, and maybe I'd have gotten a better job. I don't know. I mean, maybe getting a good job. I didn't get a good job out of college. And maybe had I gotten a good job, maybe I'm better off today because nobody hired me and I was kind of on my own. But there's a lot of mistakes that have been made in business. But I think though, as far as understanding the big picture of the economy, I mean, I've gotten that right, and so that part. But obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, I mean, I could have participated in the dot-com bubble. I could have participated in the housing bubble, and I could have made more money shorting them, right? Because I would have known exactly when they were going to burst. So obviously, if somebody could tell you, 30 years later, hey, this is what's going to happen for the next 30 years, you're not going to do anything wrong. You're going to be
spoken like a pure trader.
What I've done, I think what I've generally done wrong is I look at a problem and I immediately see the end, the result, but I miss a lot of the stuff in the process. Like I know what's going to happen, and then I immediately start connecting all the dots to what happens next, what happens next, what happens next. But a lot of times, it doesn't necessarily happen that way in the dot connecting, right. And so I think you have to play for the original reaction. Like you can't say, well, this is going to happen, and so then this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen. So I'm going to prepare for this fourth thing. If you do it one step at a time, you can actually make a lot more money because I start thinking too far ahead. I start overestimating the intelligence of everybody else to figure out what's going on. Okay. Instead, people seem to remain oblivious longer than you would think.
This week on London Real, we have the king of sound and ruler of beats, Beardy Man.
I see your boy stays true to his grandma. Yeah.
You imagine music in your head, and it just happens, which is something that many have dreamt of doing, but no one's ever bothered to try, really. A happy accident can happen that can spur an idea. There's all kinds of crazy technology that people are innovating, mostly in code these days, but there's hardware as well. The next stage that I'm working on, which is all very technologically based, this is something which I've always wanted to do, which is the idea of being able to do what you can do with beatbox, but have it not be shit. I'm still making music in a really twisted, sort of non-logical way that doesn't really make sense. Right now, as we speak, I'm at number 2 in the charts with a track I did with Fatboy Slim and Calvin Harris, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever done.
London Real presents Beardy Man, King of Sound.
I have a tendency to be kind of obsessive and anxious and neurotic. So I think, I'm Jewish. What are you gonna do?